one thing that we've been talking about over the last, 26 minutes or so is understanding the transition from living in this app-centric world to this more data-centric world, and understanding what customers are doing differently in an AI-driven environment. Talk a little bit about how you're working with Everpure at Sanofi.
Yeah, so at Sanofi, we're working with Everpure for foundational data and AI infrastructure, particularly in our labs and manufacturing sites. And the way that we're implementing this is to really build the foundational, of course, storage layer, but then layer on more capabilities on top of that to ultimately capture data as it's being produced from the source of our lab devices, and then generate a lot of telemetry from those devices to ultimately understand what's actually going on in our labs in real time, and then ultimately process that data with a compute layer too. And so all of this really sort of sits in one lab in a box, if you will, that really sort of drives our modernization of our lab operations.
Now, you guys shared, Shawn, your team shared some notes, and it talked about production AI, which we haven't really started talking about. What is production AI? And that's what you're talking about. Yeah. So what is that?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, we've been in this journey since the shot heard around the world, the ChatGPT moment. And, there's been a lot of pilots, there's been a lot of prototypes, there's been a lot of discussions about what's possible. We're now seeing, taking those solutions, those prototypes, what we've built, and now taking those to delivery at scale, production at scale, is, becoming the next big thing. It's like, hey, we built this, we tested it was kind of interesting, now we want to roll into production.
Right.
And then how do we build a repeatable model to take the next projects, the next AI ideas, the next AI apps, the next AI workflows, and start to productize those at scale? And the most interesting part there is it's kind of putting some tension on, can we operationalize this? Is it affordable? Is it manageable?
I'm so glad you went there, because, Pradeep, that's what I want to ask you. There's a big conversation happening right now about the return on investment for AI. And there are a lot of bulls out there, but there are a few notable bears who are basically like, this is not actually, we're spending a lot of money on tokens, but we're not seeing the results. Are you seeing the results?
Yeah, so I think when you compare, historically how software as a service had a lot of infrastructure at most enterprises to actually stand up software as a service, relative to AI and token consumption, as you're talking about, there's not much production AI infrastructure to support real production AI use cases, right? And so that's what we're trying to build with some of the new infrastructure that I was just talking about. And what actually happens is when you build that infrastructure, you actually start to mitigate your token costs from these sort of cloud-first models of token consumption, and putting them closer to your physical environments, closer to the edge, right? Where you can actually use open source models, and really all you're paying for at that point is the price of electricity, right? As opposed to cloud token consumption. So that drives ROI in the long run.
So even though we're moving from this app-centric to a data-centric world, Shawn, come on back in here. So is it also, though, about kind of almost creating that app level? We've got so much out there when it comes to AI, but figuring out these platforms to take all this data and actually do something and make it productive.
Yeah, I mean,
how should we be thinking about this, of where we are?
I mean, here's my suggestion. This is the way I think about it in terms that I think everybody can get their heads around. We've coined the term AI factory. That's what we're talking about, these entities that are taking raw materials and producing outcomes. And I think, first of all, we have to think about, if we were building a factory, what's the first question we'd ask ourselves? We'd say, what are we building, right? Shoes, cereal, food, whatever it happens to be. And then we would look at what raw materials we needed in order to actually deliver against that outcome, and did we have access, or do we have access to those raw materials? The last thing we think about is, okay, now what machinery do I need to convert my raw material into that end product? And so when you think about where we're at, it does come down to obviously what problem you're going to solve, but what workflow are you looking to improve? We can't take this approach that we may have over the last few years, which is I don't know, I'll take whatever I have, I'll put it through a factory, I'll see what comes out the other end, I'll decide if it works. It's got to really be based on, what am I trying to solve? Do I have the raw materials to solve it?
So, Pradeep, what does that mean then specifically? When you guys are talking about what you're doing, what are you trying, what is the product you're trying to create? What's the problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah, so ultimately our mission as a pharmaceutical company is to bring life-saving medicines to people, right? And the data that we work with in doing that is incredibly heterogeneous, and it has a lot of metadata that needs to be captured and contextualized in order to make AI actually work. And so this is where we actually need to have technologies that capture all of that context and then structure that context into a knowledge graph, if you will, for these AI agents that are actually operating in production to do the right thing and produce the right outputs reproducibly over time, right? And so they need to also be governed and guardrailed.
Are you starting to see the payoff?
And we are starting to see the payoff in very real ways, right? And so the more context that we actually capture, the better our processes get. And ultimately what we start to see is a faster closing of this loop, as we say, right? So the faster time to science.
That's supposed to be a huge promise of this technology, Pradeep, is that it gets us to a place where medicines are developed faster. We increase health span and lifespan, life expectancy. Is that realistic? Like, you work with this data every day, so you understand it. Is that a realistic way for us to be talking about AI? Like, is it going to actually help us live healthier, longer lives?
Absolutely, and I think there's an entire growing industry of AI and drug discovery that is promising and now starting to realize those promises of speeding up the cycle time to discover new drugs and get them into patients. And so we're actually living through a pretty revolutionary time in the industry.
What does it compress? Like, can you give us years to months to days sort of corollary here?
Yeah, years to months, right?
Okay.
And so AI really has proven out its value in understanding the search space for new drug molecules, right? And so that's one of the most powerful applications of AI that we've seen so far.
So when we think about the ROI and the cost, can a good storage platform, Shawn, essentially help bring down the cost per token? Like, this is what this is about.
Well,
or part of it?
Well, it's absolutely what it's about. So think about operational efficiency.
Yep.
And then think about economic efficiency. If I can make the ROI work and I can support it with my team without bringing any undue risk to my business, then I'm cooking with gas. Now I've got something that works. So when you look at the dynamics of it, and Pradeep talked about some of them, right? I want to minimize token usage because ultimately I am moving to a price per token. I want to maximize inference because ultimately that's what's going to allow me to turn around the answer as quickly as possible. And we're talking about a world where agents are talking to other agents as part of major agentic workflows. So as humans, we tend to think of latency is no big deal. I ask ChatGPT a question, I wait 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But agents are going to be looking for microsecond, millisecond, nanosecond type responses because they're part of much bigger workflows. So now I get to, by indexing and vectorizing data, by bringing context, I now essentially get to lower latency.
Right.
But I'm also consuming less context to get my answer.